6:39, good morning to you. This is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne.
Yeah, shall we have a look at the papers now with Liz Kershaw and Benjamin Butterworth? They've been good enough to come back. Liz, yeah, this Strep A thing is a real worry, isn't it?
It is, and I just want to say quickly one thing about this. There was one of the children who died this week. Her father had taken her 3 times to A&E and been sent home with nothing. And I just want to say to people, you know your child best and don't worry about being a pushy parent. And the reason I say this is because when my eldest son, Sam, was 8 months old, we took him to A&E. And they told us that he was constipated and sent us home. And I wasn't having it. So we then went back to the hospital and went straight to the children's ward, which you're not supposed to do. I don't know if you'd even get in now because they're locked these days, aren't they? And we just happened to arrive when the consultant was doing her rounds, consultant paediatrician.
You keep talking. I'm just moving this because it's disturbing your mic.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
Oh, what did you put you up?
I thought you were giving me an award then. And she immediately stuck penicillin into him without any further discussion, just as a precaution. And then they did a lumbar puncture and he had meningitis.
Oh, heck.
And she said he would have probably died if I hadn't had that shot.
It's pushy.
If we hadn't marched onto the ward and said, this child is not constipated, please help us. So, and then with my younger son, and when he was in his early 20s, he couldn't swallow. He must have had something like this. And then I realised that for 2 days he hadn't even had any water because he couldn't swallow. He's 6'6", isn't he, Stephen? And he was just pathetic. We took him to the hospital, waited 4 hours. And it was only when I went and found a sister that he then got immediately taken to the ward and filled with
I think you're dead right. I think you've just got to say, if you're the child's parent, you know that child, and don't be afraid of being pushy.
Well,
got to.
It's so necessary and tragic. And stick a shot in them if there's any doubt at all. Stick some antibiotics in there. I'm not sure that there's, I don't know the figures, but it seems to me that I did read that GPs have been advised, not by NICE or whatever, not to give penicillin because they're frightened that the superbugs will be coming new. But this kids are dying.
Yes, this time I think we've got to insist.
Might have to. Mind you, sticking with the health service in the Times, Benjamin, Labour says they're going to look again at the pay deal.
Yeah, so you've got the nurses' strikes coming up, which is the first time in God knows how long, many decades, I think, if ever. And Labour's Wes Streeting, who's the Shadow Health Secretary, has hinted that they would give a better deal. He's gone further than Keir Starmer, the Labour leader, has been willing to. And he basically says that, it's completely out of sync, the amount that we pay nurses. And actually, looking at the figures, the average nurse pay is about £29,000. Well, if you go to Belgium, they'd get 53,000, Netherlands 43,000, Denmark 40,000, and so we're significantly behind countries with very similar costs of living. The offer they were given us 4.5% rise, but that was in the summer before everything went through the roof. And so I think there's a lot to be said for the idea that I remember earlier this year when the rail strike started, and lots of people that were angry about that said, if anyone should be on strike, it's the nurses. They get a really rubbish deal. And then bizarrely, lots of those people seem to say, well, how dare the nurses go on strike? This country has fundamental, massive problems at the moment, but I just don't accept that they're caused by nurses or firefighters or ticket collectors on trains wanting to be paid enough to feed themselves. I really don't think that's where our problem starts.
Well, yeah, look.
Can I just say, to put it into perspective, I was looking around Europe, which is always a good idea, see what's going on. They've had strikes in Switzerland, Austria, they've got strikes in Portugal. In France, they've had a nurses' strike last month. They had a GP strike last week. The lab technicians in France have been on strike, so you can't get your blood test results. French airlines and airports are going on strike. It's not, before we have got real problems here, but before we beat ourselves up as a country, this is a Europe-wide problem. at the moment.
Well, talking of heroes and all the rest of it,
Yes.
countries, tell us about the last dam buster.
Well, it's Johnny Johnson, and the Dam Busters was a really daring raid during the Second World War, and I've lost my page, but I know the story anyway. And it involved absolutely specific targeting to bring down a dam, to take out some German manufacturing. The bouncing bomb was specially developed, and Johnny Johnson's job was to lie on his belly at the front of the bomber and decide the precise moment, the optimum moment to drop the bomb so it would bounce and destroy the dam. And that's what he did. And he's the last survivor of that campaign.
And he's just
and
died.
he's just died,
How
so
old
it's
is he?
101.
Gosh.
And he went on to be a wing commander, and then he went on to be a teacher, and he was married to the same woman that he married in 1943 for all these years, and retired to Torquay. But a real hero, because that was a real turning point in the war. And he was about 23 at the time. Can you imagine the courage? 50% of the people in Bomber Command never came back from missions. That was the risk that they took.
It was a remarkable mission, and one that this almost didn't expect to succeed.
And all he got was
So
an
difficult.
MBE, and he was so grateful for it.
Oh.
Yeah.
But he was a hero, though.
Yeah,
He was a proper hero.
Yeah.
Now, Benjamin, Ding Dong Merrily on Dry, says the Daily Star.
Yes, exactly. So apparently, first of all, Christmas for me is a great excuse to have a drink. I don't know about
there's
your
a
house.
surprise.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've met before. I love a drink at Christmas, but apparently 40% of people are going to have a dry Christmas or a less drunk Christmas. The word they're using is sober curious. So you know the term bi-curious? You might have heard of it. So someone who might be bisexual. Sober curious, people that are tempted to go sober for these big events. They're
Why
changing.
would you want to do it over Christmas if
Well,
you don't have to?
Well, exactly. I mean, honestly, some of my relatives, you need a gin and tonic to get through it.
Yeah, but the trouble is, too much alcohol also fuels family
Yes.
arguments, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah, a wise woman speaks. I think maybe they have a point. But apparently, and this shocked me, well, it didn't shock me, 26% of Gen Z, so I think that's people under 25 roughly, 26% are completely teetotal. They don't drink at all. Actually, maybe, Anne, this is the point you picked up on. 9 in 10 people say they think the idea of waking up feeling fresh on Christmas Day is amazing. They wish they could do it. I think many of them won't.
There's a lot to be said, because I don't drink anymore, there's a lot to be said for not having a hangover.
Yeah.
I will say that. I wouldn't recommend that people give up the booze if you don't want, don't feel obliged.
What will you drink with your Christmas lunch?
Well, now they do alcohol-free wines and all this sort of
They're,
stuff.
they're really good.
They are good.
There's one from, can I mention? From Sainsbury's, and they do white, rosé and red, and they also do sparkling versions.
Oh, yeah, the sparkling.
And it's not sweet, it's really sharp and fruity, and it actually feels
But
like having wine.
My problem is that, you get these alcohol-free gins and things, and they charge the same price as if you're buying it with alcohol. And I think it must cost a lot less. That's kind of taking the mickey.
Yeah, they are, because this stuff in Sainsbury's is £4 a bottle, as opposed to, say, 8, because there's no alcohol.
Well, my wine
on
is
it.
£4 a bottle normally, but...
Maybe that's why it smells so rough.
Well, a lot of the nicer ones, they brew them as normal, and then they de-alcoholise them.
You can do that?
Yeah.
I had a Harvey's Bristol cream this week. I haven't had one for about 30 years.
I used to have one of those.
I enjoyed it, actually. It's sherry,
Well, look, there you go. We've got to leave it there for the time being. I'll be the only person sober on Christmas Day on this panel, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah, fair enough. The only sober one in my house as well, but there you go. Thank you both very much indeed. Benjamin, Liz, we'll catch up with you very, very soon,
Thank
probably
you.
next Friday.